The triangle, 18 cylinders, 36 pistons, 3 crankshafts, one of them spinning backwards, on purpose, built for Navy torpedo boats, killed by the repair bill. Real name, the Napier Deltic. Britain, mid-1940s. The Navy had a problem. Petrol engines in torpedo boats caught fire when people shot at them, which people kept doing. Diesel fuel is far harder to ignite. Shoot a diesel tank, and it mostly just leaks. But a diesel with real power was too heavy for a small boat, so Napier got weird. 2 pistons in every cylinder charging at each other. No valves, the pistons themselves uncover the ports. Then they took 3 banks of these cylinders and welded them into a triangle, 1 crankshaft at each corner. To make the timing work, 1 crank has to run backwards, on purpose. 2,000 horsepower, at a fifth the weight of a normal diesel. Britain even put pairs of them in locomotives, the most powerful single-unit diesel locos on Earth at the time. So why did it die? Nobody could fix it in the field. Too tightly packed, too highly strung. When a Deltic broke, you didn't repair it, you shipped the whole engine back to the factory, and they mailed you another one. A Navy can afford that. A railway can't. Simpler turbocharged diesels caught up, and the triangle was done. New York City did buy one, for a fire truck, the most powerful land-based fire engine ever built, running on a British torpedo boat engine. That one, nobody sent back. The spinner. Picture an engine where the crankshaft never moves, and the whole engine spins around it instead. 1913, the Gnome Rotary. The crankshaft is bolted to the plane. It never moves. All 9 cylinders spin around it, with the propeller bolted on. Why? Cooling. Spinning the finned cylinders through the air cools them for free. No heavy radiator, and 100+ kilos of whirling metal doubles as a flywheel. Genuinely clever. Also, there's no throttle. Pilots landed by switching the ignition off and on, in bursts. Here's the mechanism that killed it. A spinning 100-kilo engine is a gyroscope, and a gyroscope fights every turn. The Sopwith camels snapped to the right ended a lot of student pilots. Push the design bigger, and the physics gets worse. Drag and centrifugal load climb brutally with size and speed, so rotaries hit a power ceiling right as conventional engines blew past them. Oh, and it lubricated itself by spraying castor oil out the exhaust. Into the pilot's face. Castor oil is a laxative. Fighter pilots carried blackberry brandy as the official countermeasure. The silk scarf? Partly a breathing filter. Aviation's most glamorous accessory exists because of engine diarrhea. The Frankenstein. What do you do when you need thousands of tank engines immediately and every engine factory is already booked? You raid the car lot. America enters World War II, and Chrysler looks at its car production line and asks the forbidden question, what if we just bolt 5 sedan engines together? That's the A57 multibank. 5 complete flathead 6s arranged like flower petals, each keeping its own crankshaft, all 5 geared onto one output shaft. 30 cylinders. To the transmission, it looks like one engine. One very, very wide engine. And honestly, it worked. If one bank got sick, the other 4 dragged it along. British crews rated it reliable. But the Sherman's hull had to be stretched to fit it, and servicing 30 spark plugs and 5 ignition systems buried in a tank was a mechanic's nightmare. The moment purpose-built engines caught up, the kludge was over. Chrysler's own wartime ad bragged the tank kept moving. Quote, even with 12 of its 30 cylinders knocked out. That's their ad, not my test data. But it's probably the only engine in history marketed on how much of it you can destroy. The Headless Diesel. An aircraft diesel with no cylinder heads. None at all. Germany, the 30s. The Junkers Jumo 205. 6 cylinders, 12 pistons, a crankshaft at the top and the bottom, and every pair of pistons squeezes the fire between them. No heads means no head gaskets to blow at diesel pressures. The thing a flying diesel absolutely needs. Air sweeps straight through the cylinder, in one end, out the other. Diesel sips fuel, so this became the endurance engine. Germany's long-range flying boats ran on it. Combat killed it. A two-stroke diesel hates sudden throttle changes, and dogfights are nothing but sudden throttle changes. Supercharged petrol engines outmuscled it per kilo, and Germany's war money followed the muscle. Then, America licensed it. Fairbanks Morse took the layout, and its descendants spent decades powering U.S. Navy submarines. A German aircraft engine, retired from the sky, spent the Cold War underwater. On the other side, the knocker. Take the 2 pistons per cylinder trick from the last engine, then rip out one of its 2 crankshafts to save money. Britain again, the Kommer TS3. Same opposed piston layout as the Jumo, no valves. But the Roots Group engineers had a budget problem. 2 crankshafts cost 2 crankshafts. Their fix? Seesaws. Every piston pushes a rocker lever, and every rocker reaches down to 1 crankshaft slung under the engine. 12 connecting rods, 6 rockers, 1 crank. It sounds unhinged. It ran for 18 years, flat enough to hide under a truck cab, tough and weirdly efficient. What killed it wasn't physics. It was a boardroom. Chrysler took over Roots in the 60s, and Detroit had zero appetite for an eccentric British 2-stroke when the parts bin was full of ordinary 4-strokes. The improved TS4 died before production. Politics. 1. Seesaws. 0. The engine's revenge is the sound. That exhaust bark, knocker, 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 built a cult. Australian truckers still fire up preserved TS3s at truck shows purely so a crowd can stand there and listen to it idle. The Doughnut, an engine with no pistons at all, just a triangle spinning in a loop, forever. Felix Wankel spent the 50s building it. A rounded triangle orbits inside a peanut-shaped housing, and the 3 pockets around it breathe, squeeze, burn, and exhaust, all at once, never reversing. More than twice as smooth as a 4-cylinder, because nothing ever slams to a stop. And as you put it in the gorgeous row 80, then the apex seals, those 3 little strips on the rotor tips, started wearing out. Compression gone, engines dead before 50,000 kilometers. NSU's warranty was generous, and that generosity was fatal. Some customers got as many as 9 free replacement engines. The company bled out into Volkswagen's arms. Now the part most people get wrong. Mazda largely fixed the seals, even won Le Mans with a rotary. What nobody fixed is the shape. The combustion chamber is long, thin, and moving, so the flame chills against all that metal before it finishes burning. Wasted fuel, dirty exhaust, plus oil injected on purpose to protect the seals. Emissions law, not fragility, finally killed the RX-8 in 2012. The Doughnut didn't fail its mechanics exam. It failed geometry. The Swashplate, an engine with no crankshaft at all. Engineers call these barrel engines. The cylinders line up parallel to the shaft, like rounds in a revolver, and the pistons push against a tilted spinning plate. Glue a coin on an axle at a slant. Watch its rim wobble forward and back as it spins. That wobble is the whole engine, and people would not stop building them. One American version made 425 horsepower back in the 1920s. Another flew 700 real hours strapped to a little Piper. 90 years of attempts. 0 production runs. Why? Bearings. A crankshaft hands its forces to big, oil-flooded journal bearings. A problem your great-grandfather's engineers had already solved. A swashplate crams the same combustion punch through contacts the size of a coin at steep angles, and the concentrated stress chews them apart at real engine speeds. And the prize for fixing all that? An engine that's rounder. That's it. That's the prize. Conceived in 1916, still being pitched in the 2000s. The slowest overnight success in engineering history. The impossible compound. The final boss of British engineering, Two completely different engines fused into one. The Napier Nomad, a 12-cylinder opposed piston diesel and a gas turbine bolted together. The diesel's exhaust, still hot, still angry, blasts through the turbine, which feeds power back to the propeller. The exhaust doesn't get thrown away. It gets a second job. It's routinely called the most complex aero engine ever made, and it worked. That's the tragedy. Roughly half the fuel burn of its contemporaries, about the best any aero engine has ever managed. It won its own game and lost the war. Thousands of parts, a decade of work, over 5 million pounds. And while Napier polished this masterpiece, turboprops got light and reliable and jet fuel got cheap. Efficiency stopped being worth the agony. Cancelled 1955. Not one production aircraft ever carried it. 60 years on, Formula One's hybrid turbos revived the exact same exhaust recovery trick. The Nomad's big idea finally paid off in somebody else's engine. The Smithsonian keeps one. Officially, it's an exhibit. Unofficially, it's a headstone. The wood burner, an engine that runs on firewood, actual logs. World War II, Europe has cars, trucks, buses, and no gasoline. None. So an estimated 1 million vehicles got the same upgrade. A wood-fired stove bolted to the back, piped straight into the engine. Wood smoldering without enough air gives off carbon monoxide and hydrogen, both flammable. Cool it, filter it, feed it to a mostly unmodified engine, and you're driving on firewood. Refueling meant shoveling. Starting meant lighting a fire and waiting while your car preheated. Was it good? It was terrible. Up to half your horsepower gone. Tar gumming the valves, a furnace strapped to your bodywork, and the fuel gas itself is poisonous to breathe. Finland alone ran tens of thousands of wood burners, including 600 boats. The day real gasoline came back, the stoves vanished overnight. It was never a good engine. It was the only engine. A whole continent of drivers who didn't fill up. They stoked up. If you want the weirdest tools ever built next, subscribe. Send it to the Scrapyard.